Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing, while also documenting their own personal investing journeys, are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice Podcast. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another episode. Today, we're bringing back a familiar face, and we are interviewing Diego Corzo. We've had him on the show twice prior. He's just evolved so much every time we bring him back on the show, and he is a 32-year-old real estate investor, real estate agent based out of Austin, Texas. He's now splitting his time between Austin and Puerto Rico. He has a net worth of $3.8 million, almost $4 million. When we originally talked to him, he had just hit the $1 million mark, and that was about 3 years ago. He is one of the initial members in GoBundance, and that's essentially how he started his portfolio and scaled his business, if you will. He started as a $25,000 worth of income, surrounded himself with a ton of millionaires, and got brought up to their level and learned from their mistakes and kind of fast-tracked himself to an incredible life. And he was recently invited to the White House to speak as a DACA recipient. He's just done so many unbelievable things that I find it impossible to be not inspired after listening to the episode.
And one of the goals for us was to bring on people in 2023. Not all of our guests are previous guests, but one of our goals was to check in with previous guests, because I think that it gives people this perspective of, oh, well, if I hear somebody new, that's great, but I never knew where they started, or I never knew what they were. And now Diego coming on, worth $2 million more than what we interviewed him a couple of years ago, it shows you the progress, and it shows you the steps that you can actually take to become something like him. So inspiring is an understatement for Diego. There's a lot of people that listen to our podcast that probably haven't started out as an undocumented illegal immigrant coming to the United States. And to see what Diego has done with that opportunity, talking about how everything happens for him, the mindset that goes in to not being able to work, not being able to go to college. There's just all these chips that are stacked against him, and for him to come out on top the way he is. And now he's saying, I don't even need to make more money. In fact, I want to make less money and buy my time back. And he's investing in deals in 10 markets across the United States. He's a private money lender. The dude really has it all going for him, but the humble beginnings have kept him in a position where he just wants to sleep well at night and have peace. And that was one of the cool things that we resonate with. It was you don't need to be worth $100 million, dude. You just want to have a great life. And Diego is taken every single step in the right direction to make that happen. That's why we wanted to bring him on again, to make sure that he shared the steps along his journey that made that possible for him.
Yep. An absolutely incredible story, awe-inspiring. He truly has done it all. And as you mentioned, every single chip was stacked against him.
Yeah.
And he just pushed right through it and found his way.
Yeah, he really did. The funny thing about him is he used to be afraid to speak in front of people. He talked about it too, not in this episode, but past. He was I never really liked speaking in front of people. And then the dude's invited to the White House this year to speak. Yeah. And he had to turn down another speaking engagement in Philly because he's hey, I got invited to the White House. So if you go check out the White House Instagram, you'll see Diego's face posted all over it. It's really funny, but he's such a good dude, one of our good friends. And without further ado, let's bring him in.
Let's do it.
For real estate investors, going mobile is the next big thing for managing our properties. We like to have the power and resources in the palm of our hand. When we're hunting for deals, we're consistently go, go, go. Having RentReady's property management app is great for checking in on all our properties, especially when it's time to collect rent. With RentReady, we get the benefit of both mobile and web apps that allow us to collect rent from anywhere. We not only get instant notifications when rent is paid, but we also have the ability to send automatic reminders to tenants when rent is due or late. From finding the perfect tenant to collecting rent, everything an investor needs to build wealth and manage their investing portfolio can now be found under one roof with RentReady. The most exciting news is that RentReady gave us an exclusive 50% off promo code that can now be used by all of our Weekly Juice listeners. You just need to visit rentready.com and enter the code JUICEPOD to get 50% off any RentReady plan. That is RentReady.com and enter the code JUICEPOD, JUICEPOD, to receive 50% off any RentReady plan.
Diego, officially welcome back to the Weekly Juice podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you back on. We have interviewed you twice before. Once was a dual episode. Once was on your story back when you were first taken off, and a lot has changed. So we wanted to have you back on the show, and we're thrilled to have you here.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. Super excited, and I'm an open book, so we'll definitely be talking about many different things.
Cool. We can't wait. So I think we should start it way back. Talk us through your inception into real estate. I know you're this big real estate mogul now, and you'll have a mastermind, a heavy investor, and a huge community. But I think for people that are just getting started, they'd love to hear your story and like how you became who you are today.
Yeah. So a little bit about me right now. I'm 32 years old. I live in Austin, Texas. At least that's my hometown. But I'm trying to see if I can split my time now more in Puerto Rico, which I bought a condo here. I run a real estate team in Austin with is myself and a business partner. We have 8 agents. Last year, we sold $97 million. So we're $3 million short from selling $100 million. We're the number one team in our Keller Williams office. And my portfolio right now consists of 64 doors. And then I have the mastermind group called FI Investors. So I'm a real estate coach as well. And basically the rentals and all of that stuff pay for my living expenses, right? So people can say I've achieved financial independence, achieved the American dream, right? But as you guys know, and when I shared back in the previous podcast, I think it was one of like the first 50, I shared that I am a dreamer and a DACA recipient. So I am from Lima, Peru. I came to the U.S. when I was 9 years old, and I didn't know that I was going to be undocumented when I came as a kid. And so Congress now calls me a dreamer. And at age 15, I found out I couldn't I couldn't drive. I couldn't get a driver's license. In high school, I graduated third in my high school class. And at age 18, found out I couldn't qualify for student loans or financial aid. And then at age 19, found out I couldn't legally work in the United States. And it wasn't until President Obama passed the DACA program, that's when I was finally able to work and drive. At age 23, I bought my first house. And that's basically how I got started. When I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That book teaches that you can make money in 2 ways, either trade your time for money or make your money work for you. And at age 23, that's when I was like, okay, if I can save money, put it to work. I started house hacking, and it went from there. But that was like a little bit of where I start, like where I am now. And then I got you to like buying my first property from that perspective. But it's been a roller coaster ride from all of that stuff.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. It's I remember your story and how inspirational it is. I'm curious about like kind of the mindset that you had after you realized that you couldn't work, and what were some of the things that you do when you realized that you could or you were able to, and in that process of buying your first home, like once you realized you were able to start to create some income, what was some of the first things that you did? Did you start as an agent right away? I'm just curious how you built up enough money in a shorter period of time that enabled you to purchase a property.
Yes. And this is something that's really important, right? And to answer your first question, the mindset is the number one thing when it comes like, if you want to achieve anything big, right? Anything that's outside of the norm, something that maybe your parents or your family members haven't done it in the past, is what Ed Milet talks about, right? He's like, if you want to be the one in your family, something needs to be different. And that something starts by your mindset and surrounding yourself with other people that have the same mindset. But when you are hitting those obstacles, one of the things that helped me is that when those things happen, I just asked myself the right questions. And I had the mindset of what are the solutions, like coming from an empowered mentality rather than the victim mentality. So I knew that even though I was undocumented and I'm still undocumented, right? Even though I've had those challenges, It was more, okay, this is my situation. I have to accept it, but what can I do about it moving forward rather than blaming other people and being a victim? Because if you become a victim, you're going to look for excuses as to why you can achieve them. If you want to be the first millionaire in your family or the first financially free person in your family, you have to get your mindset right, and you have to change your blueprint. So that's one of the first things that I did. And the power of questions, right, comes from, why is this happening to me rather than why is this happening for me? When you ask yourself, why is life or why are these things happening for me? I began to look for solutions. And that's what helped me have a different mindset, where I knew other people would have definitely either have given up or create different excuses. So that is to answer your
That's
first
perfect.
question.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. I have my brother-in-law told me a quote. It's very simple. I think he heard it from Tony Robbins, but he says everything is a gift. And if you really approach it like that, like everything that happens for you is a gift. It's just as an example, in our portfolio, one of our rental properties burned down. And at first it's like, this is awful, clearly. Like, why did this happen? You know, people were talking about the worst possible thing that could happen if you buy real estate, it burns down. And that led us to a decision to pivot into a different sphere in the real estate game. I bought a property in Tampa, Florida, and I'm using it as a short-term rental. I would have never been able to even focus on something different had that one thing that was really bad in the moment happen for us, right? So I love the mindset behind it. I'm curious now how you built your portfolio. Like, just give us the 5-minute spiel on you buying your first home, and then how you scaled it from there once you realized you were able to chase this financial freedom.
Yeah, for sure. So I started by house hacking. That was my main thing. I looked at my finances and I realized that my rent payment was the thing that I was paying the most when I looked at my expenses, right? So I asked myself, how can I reduce it or completely eliminate it? By asking myself that question, right? Again, the power of questions. Then I went online and I was like, okay, how do I, in me being able to reduce my expenses, I realized that I had to buy a house and live with roommates, or live in one side, rent out the others. And so I was able to save around $10,000 and be able to use that as a down payment for my first house hack. Now, I did have to speak to 12 different lenders because in the beginning, nobody knew what DACA was, right? And nobody knew what the program. I didn't have, before that, I didn't have, since it was so new in the program, they were like, how are you here without a visa, blah, blah, blah. And, but I was able to make it happen. And I lived in the master bedroom, rented out 3 rooms, each of them paying me $550, and my mortgage at that time was $1,350. So I was making around $300. Me being 24 years old, and I couldn't because I couldn't get student loans or financial aid. I didn't have student loans, right? So a lot of it was I didn't have any credit card debt or anything like that. So the only thing was my car payment, and that extra money that came from that house paid for my car payment. So what's been cool is that since age 24, I've been living for free, and my car payment has been getting paid by other people. So that's been really good. And then I began to, after that, I lived in that one house, and then I repeated the process again. And it was because I had that mindset of, how can I begin to buy assets that will pay for my liabilities? And then it became like a game, right? Of like, okay, this house is going to pay for my expenses on my living and my car. This other house is going to pay for my cell phone bill, insurance, whatever, right? But here's one thing that I did later, and this is something that's really important. I realized that if I wanted to scale, there were 2 different things that needed to happen. Is I needed to partner up with people that would complement, and it's something that I call like funding your unfair advantage. And also I needed to build what I call a money machine. And that money machine for me was becoming a realtor. Prior to that, I was working as a software developer for General Motors, making $60,000 a year. But no matter how hard I work, no matter if I went early or stayed up late working, I was capped at that $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. So I knew that at some point, because I wanted to be wealth in real estate, I was like, might as well get to know the market, become a realtor, help other people, and have an income that is uncapped. And then I could get paid the value that I created, the amount of clients that I had, and me becoming a better salesperson. I think that if you want to achieve financial independence, or just like if you learn how to sell, you have untapped income opportunities. And that's what I did.
Cool. Yeah, I totally agree, especially in the sales realm. I think that right now everyone wants, when they hear financial freedom, they think, oh, I want to buy 12 houses or 15 or 20 houses and I want to leave my job. And I'm not suggesting that it's not possible, because it certainly is. But with inflation rising the way it is, rents are going up, but everything is going up. So having that income that you can dictate, right? That is going to set you apart from somebody else who, they can show up and they can make the same amount. But for us, the sales aspect has helped us not only grow our W-2 incomes, but also grow our real estate portfolios by the negotiation tactics, creating new partnerships, creating new bigger relationships that have put us in rooms that we would have never been in if we could sell ourselves, or at least have the confidence to be in those rooms. So I love that. Right. Did you have anything that you want to go into? I want to hear the rest, like more about his portfolio, but I think I didn't know if you had
No, I just want to, nothing specific question wise, but I do want to talk about how you kind of evolved over time, right? We talked, let's call it a year and a half ago, 2 years. You have continued to buy real estate, sell real estate, net worth has increased. I think take us to the state of your portfolio today and how you got there, unit wise, but then also talk about the relationship aspect of this whole game, because I know that has been a huge outlier for you, or something that has completely helped you take off to exponential heights.
Yeah, no, for sure. So my portfolio right now consists of, I own a 6-unit and 3 single family homes in Austin, Texas with 2 partners. I own 2 other homes in Austin, 50-50. 3 houses by myself. So I only own 3 houses in my name. The rest are with partners. I own a quadplex in McAllen, 15 or 16 units in the Smokies as Airbnbs, 16-unit JV in Augusta, Georgia area, a house in Augusta, a house in Antioch, and 2 duplexes in somewhere in Georgia. And then I own my condo here in Puerto Rico.
Hold on, before you continue, I wanna mention something real quick, and I think it's funny because we know you a little bit. We know a lot of the people that you know that have helped build your network. Not all of them, but we know some of the people that you know that have helped build your network. And there are people that say, go into a market and build your team and drive it up in one specific market. But you just named 8 different places that you own property. I want you to finish, but I'm also curious, is that due to the relationship capital that you've built in all these areas? Because I imagine that you're not managing these properties, right? You have boots on the ground. You have people in all these different areas that have helped you build it and scale it for different purposes. Some for short-term rentals, some for long-term rentals, some that spit out money. I'm sure some that maybe aren't as good, but just talk to your ability to have a portfolio around the country.
Yes, for sure. And it's really important to know too, as we scale, right? Something that I haven't shared much on podcasts is like also the way that I've invested has changed too. So number one is with partners, right? Leveraging capital has worked in different ways. And when you partner up with people, I call it like there's 4 different types of unfair advantages that people have. It's either time, it's your network, your knowledge, or capital, right? So you have your knowledge in the market. Maybe you have money, you have a lot of free time that you can be the boots on the ground too, and then the experience. So what I did is, for example, the Airbnbs, I have a business partner that he is the one that manages the portfolio. And I came in as somebody that could, like if he needed, hey, I need $40,000 to close on this property, I would be the one that would put the money for the down payment, and he would put the money to basically to do whatever we needed to get it Airbnb ready. That was a little bit of the partnership until we became equal partners of the money that we put into the company. Now, one thing that's important is with that company, we didn't take much money out. We just kept everything there so that we were using that same money later to buy more property. So that's how we scaled to 15. I probably have taken out maybe like 20, I would say like $20,000 in passive income from that property from that business from the last like 3 years, let's say. Then the properties, there are 2 other properties that I bought, and that was solely for cost segregation. Cost segregation basically means that you can take bonus depreciation or you take a lot of depreciation up front. So then I began doing partnerships. The latest partnerships in 2020 and 2022, in 2021 and 2022, were me bringing in cash, giving some more cash flow to other people, but me taking on that negative $100,000 in my K1 so that I didn't have to pay as much taxes in from the income that I made as a realtor, right? In the beginning, I was solely cash flow. And now, then I started investing for the cost seg. And now that I've done that, now I one of the exercises that I'm going to do for myself is I'm going to look into my portfolio and be like, okay, what do I need to do to get to $20,000 a month in passive income? That's going to be my next goal. So I've done some equity plays, but I didn't do the equity plays until I became financially free and I had that cash flow that I was going to be okay. Why? Because the millennial, I guess, in me wants that freedom to be able to choose, and the equity plays have come later. For example, the properties in Austin, they don't make me any cash flow. In some, we're like negative $100, right? But I think like, and I'm doing quotes right now, like I've earned the right, I would say for myself, everybody has their own definition, right? But I've earned the right to now do equity plays because it's more risky than just cash flow. Because
Sure.
In the market, I'll share, we put a home under contract in 2020, me and a business partner, that was going to be a new build with just $1,000 for $303,000. Okay. By the time that we closed, it was worth around 400. 6 months later, now it did take like 9 months to close. 6 months later, after we closed, it was worth 440. We got $100,000 line of credit, and now I'm using that money to basically to be a hard money lender, right? So imagine $1,000 that we put in, then we put in 20% that I put into that money, and then but then now I have $100,000 line of credit that I can use, and but that is an equity play.
You're playing real life Monopoly. It's awesome, and like becoming your own bank in a way. It's awesome. It's funny that you're mentioning all these little projects and things, and you mentioned areas of the country, and like I have light bulbs going off. Like I know the people that you're involved with. It's great because we're all in this community together. I won't put their names out there, but it's very cool because now I know what they're doing too. Can you talk to, being that you have properties and partnerships in a lot of different areas of the country, can you talk about the management of those partnerships? For example, do you meet weekly, monthly, bi-weekly with these people for strategy sessions? Because I know for Corey and I, it's just us on a lot of deals together, and we still have to meet frequently just to like reset. I can't imagine being in a bunch of different deals with other people and not having some sort of organization, because I think about the implications on the tax side, right? Like, okay, am I getting this K1? How do we structure this? So long-winded there, but can you talk to maybe the frequency you meet with people and have alignment meetings?
Yeah. So usually with some of the partners, for example, we meet after this podcast. I actually have a meeting with the partners for the 16 unit. On Thursday, I have a meeting and they're all like 30 to 40-minute meetings. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. And we talk about where we are with the portfolio, and it happens once every 3 weeks, I would say, or even once a month, just to check in. We can text throughout the thing, right? Like throughout the month and stuff like that, but that one's solely for that. We might need once a month to go over P&Ls and then make some decisions that are needed. Other than that, it's just more, if a meeting is needed, then we do it. But that's more for like the bigger projects. If it's as simple as like, because I own 2 properties that the way that I do it is like, hey, I'm going to bring most of the money, but you are the manager. You are the manager, right? I don't want to be bothered. One of them, for example, and a lot of people say, hey, there are no deals on the MLS, blah, 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 right? There was one deal that I bought in September of last year that Ward, one of the guys that works in my team, he brought to me, and he was like, hey, Diego, there's this deal and we can do seller financing. So I was like, oh my gosh, let's see what we can do, right? I was a duplex in Austin. It had just come back on the market. And it was on the MLS. So we submitted 2 offers that were seller financing, and we bought this property. Check it out. This is in September last year, when rates were going up, people were saying, oh my gosh, rates are going to go up. Rates were going from 6 to 7, 8%, whatever. We were able to get this home, the duplex, under contract, 3% interest, 40-year amortized. Check it out. So 3% interest, 40-year amortized, 10-year balloon, putting only 7% down. So it was like $25,000. We put that down. And the way that I did the negotiation too, with that business partner was, you're going to manage the property. We'll split the cash flow. We can even split the equity, but I'm taking 90% of the cost segregation. Because
Got it.
So you're really looking for the tax shelter these days.
Exactly. And I even put down the money for the down payment. So it was, which was only $25,000, right? So it all depends how you structure it. But this was a deal that was on the MLS that everybody and their mother could have wanted to submit an offer in Austin, right? But we were able to make it happen.
This is so interesting to me how you mentioned that you've earned the right. I find that enlightening, because this speaks to like creating a big income for yourself, right? And then also tackling a bunch of different projects. You start out in the cash flow game and then you move over to the equity game. And the reason why I'm saying this is, like, if you could own a property in Austin, in an emerging market that's going to continue to go up, maybe not in a 1-year time frame, but in a 10-year time frame, 100%. You can see the jobs moving there. You can see the growth. You can see population. You can see the migration patterns. Austin is going to continue to rise. If you could own a property there that is negative $500 a month in cash flow, right? You can think about it this way. Most people would be like, that's a bad deal. That's a bad deal. Well, if you could own a property that loses $500 a month in cash flow, but you have all these other assets that are supporting your lifestyle and bringing in money in other ways, but that property is worth $550,000 today, and in 8 years, it's worth $850,000. What is your negative $6,000 per year times 8? That's 40. You lost 40 grand to gain 300 grand, right? So the reason why I brought that up is because it was part of our strategy to buy a short-term rental in an emerging market where, my plan is like, okay, I know this can at very least break even, but people buy deals that lose dollars, but you can only do that if you've built up the capital, the assets, the ability to take out lines of credit. You have the cash flow on the back end. So I just want to point that out there, that I don't think it's always cash flow. Only when you start, you need to create this system for yourself. But then also, if you bring in a high level of W-2 or other income, that allows you to potentially lose dollars each month on a property, but that can go up in value. Do you see that the same way?
100%. Because at the end of the day, right? And when I say like I earned the right, it's there's two things that I want to share with that is, like the benefit. Okay, I might not be making cash flow from that property, but if that K1 comes at negative 100 and I'm in the 35% tax bracket, now I'll have to pay taxes on that. Like now I don't have to come out of pocket $35,000 as an example. That in 1 year is like $3,000 a month that I don't have to, like, I'm keeping in my pocket, right?
So it's like the reverse of the cash flow that you would, yeah,
exactly. So that's the way that I see it. Number one, on some of those deals. And then number two is I want to make sure that I can still sleep well at night. There's nothing like, if you cannot sleep well at night, dude, no matter how much money you have, it doesn't really matter. If you can sleep well at night, you're golden. And I learned this, I don't want to say like the hard way, but I realized with something that happened, that it was when I couldn't renew my paperwork for the DACA program and my license expired back in 2017. I couldn't, if I drove and I got caught, or if somebody crashed into me or whatever, I could have gotten deported. That same month, I made $40,000. It was the peak. It was what I made the most at that time in 2017, and I couldn't sleep well at night. I should have been super happy that I made $40,000 that month, and I couldn't sleep because I was super nervous. I was like, man, is that next day what's gonna happen? And I realized, I was like, holy crap, I made $40,000 and I can't sleep well at night. So money doesn't really mean anything from that perspective. And that was a lesson that I got there. And then ever since then, I'm like, okay, that's what I say, like earning the right, is because now I can be like, hey, if I'm losing 200 here or 300 there and I can sleep well at night, then I'm good, knowing that it's an appreciation play. But you have to be careful too with how much you do this, because at the end of the day, net worth is also not hypothetical, but is like it can go up and down, right? I bought 6 properties, let's say in Austin in the last 2 years, but then Austin also went down 15% in value. It went up 40 and it came down like 15 or 20. So the net worth went up to like, let's say 5 million, and then boom, now I'm at 4, right? So you have to be careful with that too, but the cash flow stays the same if you're making cash flow around there, right? That's important.
I think that's important to bring up regarding net worth too, because Corey always brings up like checking his net worth, and we do that from time to time, but he's really strict with his numbers. And for me, I'm like, I kind of have a rough idea, but I don't like to. For me, I always thought like when I became a millionaire, it'd be like liquid cash, right? When you have a liquid $1 million, then you're a millionaire. Whereas other people, and most people, right, would count equity in properties, but to your point, goes up and down, and it's remained steady where we are. But for me, it kind of seems like you said it and then took it back. The hypothetical, to me, it feels like a hypothetical because I don't technically have it unless I sell it. So it's a weird game that I play with myself. Like, okay, when I become a millionaire, getting close on the sheet, right, with assets and cash stacking up. But when it gets to that point, is it going to even feel like it? Because
no,
it's a hypothetical. And then it's like, I'm like, okay, so what's next? So talk about the reason I'm bringing this up. Talk about when you became a millionaire, and then fast forward to a multi-millionaire. Like, what's the feeling, and like, how do you track it? And I don't know, give us your perspective from someone that actually hit that milestone.
Yeah, so I became a millionaire during COVID. It was because like I always I set a goal to become a millionaire before I turned 30. I was 29 years old, and it was like in May or June when I hit it. And I was running conservatively, so maybe I became a millionaire more like later, right? Like even sooner than that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't feel any different, right? But I just remember like I saw my net worth. I was like, holy crap, I made it. Feels like awesome. I called my parents. I'm like, hey, we did it. Like, this is great. I called a few of my friends. I posted it in the GoBundance community, right? Because they've been my mentors since my net worth was $25,000. And it is a great feeling, but nothing really changes with like your actual life from that perspective. Because the next day I was like back to selling houses, and also back to, this was in May of 2020, so everything was closed either way, so it wasn't much to celebrate from that perspective. But at the end of the day, it's on paper for me, right? And it wasn't until later that then I began making even more money as a realtor. I guess that there's a thing with momentum that a lot of people don't like. People underestimate what they can do in 10 years because they can't imagine once momentum becomes your friend, you'll see that you will skyrocket, or there's a lot more opportunities that will come. And that is something that happened to me. Is a lot of the relationships that I was building in Austin as a realtor with my network and everything. It just happened. Maybe I was super blessed also to be in Austin, which became one of the hottest markets in the whole United States. So everybody was moving to Austin, and a lot of people wanted to work with me. So at one point, like in 2020, I closed 56 deals, 2021, 51 deals by myself. And that's when we started creating the team because we got too busy. And I learned a lot of different things on that too, of like checking my phone and being okay with not responding to clients at 8 p.m. at night, working with other people in the team, knowing like, hey, because like your sanity also becomes like important. There's no money that's worth, like you can make so much money and then be super stressed now. Again, right, we go back to being able to sleep at night. So I began to try. Then I began doing a lot of deals with other agents in my team. And then I got accountability for that because some people saw me that I was at a GoBundance event. They're like, Diego, are you here or are you on your phone like this whole time? And I was like, shit, they called me out. And it was because I was getting so many notifications, people calling me, blah, blah, blah. And I needed to delegate that to other people. And that's how I began to grow the team.
I think clearing your head space and you mentioned being able to sleep at night is a big thing. I've found that recently where there's certain things I just don't want to talk about, whether it's in our business or if it's with other people. I'm like, I just don't respond, or it's like that is not a conversation that is worth my time anymore. And I don't mean that in a way of like my time is like worth dollars. It's just headspace. It's like I can't have talk in this lane about this thing. It's just a waste of my sanity, and it makes me not sleep at night. It gets me stressed out. Just feels like over encumbering. So it's just like learning to delegate becomes part of this process as you grow. And I wanted to talk about, you mentioned the like momentum. That's almost to me like life's compounding. Like you think about compound interest. Like as you start making more money tends to come, right? I'm looking at my certain accounts. They're compounding. The money is compounding on top of itself and working for me now versus against me because it's stacked up to a larger amount. And we know the power of compound interest. I think years of doing this podcast and years of networking with people has helped us accelerate our lives and our businesses exponentially as well, because we're just compounding those over and over and over. You're building a resume, but then more projects come. You take what you want. You're like, you kind of weed out certain ones that you don't. And then your investing strategy changes too. We talked about like not really focusing on the long-term portfolio as much. We're trying on the bigger projects, but we're going to still sprinkle a couple in for the foundation, right? Because we know that's what you need for the long-term growth, but there's more room to play. You mentioned that, like, I know you're doing the cost segs, you're taking equity in some deals, you're taking cash flow in others, but you've shifted your whole mindset and portfolio around over time. It evolves with you. So there was a lot in there, but I really like the concept, talking mentality and thinking about, what makes me go to sleep at night? Like if you have all the money in the world, but you can't sleep at night, you're stressed out or you just feel guilty about something or just whatever it might be that's just taking up that headspace, it's not worth it at all for me. I'd rather make $0 and to be able to go to sleep.
Peace of mind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. and dude, I am super transparent, right? So, and I think that this will help the audience as we talk through examples, because there's one thing, and I don't know if it comes just with being able to make money as a realtor, right? And this comes with sales too, with your unfair advantage in learning how to sell. If you know how to sell, and you know how to make money, you get that confidence that if you need money, you can go out there and make it. It's super interesting, right? And not to like sound cocky or anything like that, but it's like, if you know how to make money, you're okay. So for example, in 2020, I made $585,000 as a realtor. In 2021, or 2022, yeah, like I've been around 400, 500, right? But this year I set a goal to make 300,000. Can I make more? Can I make 500? Can I make 800? Can I make $1 million? Yes, but I don't want that to be I want to do other things that I am more passionate about. Now I can always go back to that. I can always go out there and make more money, right? Because I have that skill and that confidence in me. But I set a goal to make less money on that realtor part, but I created goals in other parts that make me, I would say, more fulfilled, or that I'm creating more of an impact. I realize that I want to create more of an impact than just increase my income. But here's the thing too. There's more opportunity as I can create different opportunities for other people within my empire. This is when, again, momentum becomes your friend. And sure, maybe I make 300, maybe I make 400 or 500, but it's not going to be because much of my effort on time is going to be by me helping other people and letting them grow to be a better version of themselves, to achieve their dreams, and they're going to grow with me. And that
I think, Diego,
yeah,
I think that's so commendable. There's not that many people that we talk to that will be able to. Most people have this goal, and then they hit it. And then they have the next goal, and then they hit it. And they next goal, and they hit it. And then they're 57, and they're like, wait, where am I going? Like, I did all these things, but I don't have the time to spend with my kids or with my grandkids or whatever that means. That's why when somebody asks, do you want to be a billionaire? My answer is like, not really. Like, the amount of time and effort that it would take to maintain billionaire status and grow to that, my life would be, or anybody's life, I'm not even sure that I could achieve it, for one. But two, is like, you have a constant anxiety blur that is just like keeping up, right? As opposed to you, where you just said, no, I made 30, 40% more, and I actually am going to be comfortable going backwards in the active income so that your time can be spent doing the things that you want to do. And I think that's a really challenging thing to do. I want to bring that up because, like, most people just get lost in the race, and then you create your own race, and then it's like, I'm financially free, but then there's a new race. And
yeah,
I love that, and I think it's going to be something that we eventually implement into our lives.
Yeah. I think not to jump right into the next subject here, but because it kind of goes to these relationships that you're talking about, Diego. And I know you run your own mastermind now, but we're going to eventually talk about that. Can you talk about the power of relationships and the fact that you've been talking about helping other people grow? You only can get there from people like this mindset, from being around others that have helped people grow. And I think it goes back to you starting out 25 grand net worth and joining GoBundance, and you're in this room with millionaires. And there's a quote out there that's like, you are the average of the 4 or 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Like, for you, we've seen it firsthand from an outside view, right? Like, you had the 25 grand, but you threw a $25,000 net worth gentleman in a room with millionaires, and he became a millionaire. Shocker, right? You skipped 10 years of, maybe 20 years of time to get there, and all those trials and tribulations, because you're now not doing the mistakes that they already made. And then they're saying, hey, this has worked. Try this out, implement, shiny object syndrome, cut it out, follow the lane. There's so many lessons along there. We're also members of Emerge, so we're kind of in the stepping stone program to catch up to you one day. They just doubled the net worth, so we're like, all right, another carrot dangled in front of us, but it's all good, right? It's to have conversations like this, which is amazing. Can you talk to your experience with GoBundance and the power of networking and Relationship capital is something Corey touched on before, and like how that's helped you grow as not only your net worth, but as a person.
Yeah, no, 100%. And here's one thing is a lot of people will tell you there's no shortcut to success. Like a lot of people, there's no shortcut to success. There's no shortcut. And you see it on Instagram stories, like there's no shortcuts, but there is. And that is by surrounding yourself with people that have achieved things that you have already achieved. Because they give you that shortcut of the mistakes that you may not have to do. So, for example, as you mentioned, it may have taken me 20 years to become a millionaire in the area with my business, or maybe 10, but I was able to do it in 5 or 6 years by me surrounding myself with them. And it's because they gave me that shortcut of things of what to do. And they're like, hey, Diego, I tried that. It didn't work. Try this instead. I'm like, cool. Then I did it, right? But the thing is you have to take action on the things that they are telling you to do. Because if you're just sucking and wasting their time, like if you're just like sucking in their time and like sucking in information but not implementing anything, then at that point it's just as if you should have watched a Netflix special on something, right? Because you're just wasting your time. The idea here is that you want to surround yourself with like-minded people. And what helped me was that I wanted to help. I was like always trying to bring value to them, right? And one of the things that I put myself in position to, that I would be able to learn from them. So for example, one of them was to be a ambassador. This was back in 2016. So anybody that joined GoBundance, I volunteered to do their bio. So imagine I'm speaking with 5 millionaires every single week for 45 minutes, asking them how they got there. What's their favorite thing to do? What's their greatest adventure? What's their greatest success? What's their biggest failure? And I'm just taking notes. So I was speaking to many different people. Even Brandon Turner was one of them. And I remember I was so freaking nervous when I had to do that call with him. I was like, Brandon, I know you don't know me. I've been listening to your voice going into my ears for the last like 4 years, but now I actually have to have a conversation with you. And he's like, oh, cool, man. Nice to meet you.
It's so funny. He's like the nicest guy ever. Like he's just, we had him on the podcast. He was like the nicest dude ever. It's funny.
We had the same exact thing though, going into the show. We were like, dude, I've listened to you for 4 to 5 years, telling me how to do the shit that I'm now doing. But I'm nervous to talk to you because I don't want to mess it up. I want to be like a good protege or a good student of what you've taught. And it was phenomenal, right? He's just the nicest dude ever. Great family man. And like, I don't know. He brought down the barrier right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. I think we had that aha moment with the same guy. We're like, oh, dude, we can't mess this thing up.
Exactly. So then in me learning about that, then because I was talking to so many millionaires, then the value that I could bring to them, maybe I couldn't teach them anything. Maybe I couldn't give them ideas or strategies, but what I could give them was connection. So I'd be like, hey, you're doing franchises. I just spoke to a guy, a millionaire last week that has a franchise on Midas or Chick-fil-A franchises. Let me do a connection. They're like, oh, Diego, thank you so much. Oh, you're doing this in Florida? I just spoke with a guy in GoBundance, like I can connect you. He's doing that in Nashville, for example. So I began to be the connector, and then later guys would come to me like, hey, Diego, he told me that you connected with him. Who do I need to know in GoBundance that is doing this? I'm like, I got you, right? So being the connector became my unfair advantage in having GoBundance guys reach out to me, and then it went from there. To the point that later when Austin, as an example, became the hot market and people were moving to Austin from California or from other states, they would be like, hey, Diego, can I use you as a realtor? I was like, heck yeah, let's go, right? So I was helping a lot of abundance guys.
Yeah, that right there, my question to you was going to be, how does a guy with $25,000 net worth bring value to multimillionaires? And you just explained it perfectly. You were the connector. You were the dot connector. You had a chance to talk to all these people, and they might not see value in that right away. But when then you introduce that person to somebody that they really want to talk to, then Diego's that guy. He's the middleman. He's the in-between guy, and then that builds that relationship capital that I was talking about. So I love it. I think that's a tool and a path for people to use. If you have the ability to communicate well and you are interested genuinely in what other people are doing, then you can take notes and you can write stuff down and you can remember that Jeff, the guy that you talked to at 4 p.m. today in the Starbucks line, that he needs this. You get his number. But the whole point is like, I'm getting in the weeds, but that remembering those things and then following through on that is a perfect example of how to bring value even when you don't have millions.
I think that's for us, maybe on a smaller scale than you, but that's how we found our competitive advantage as well. It's like, is literally the same thing, connecting dots. We have this podcast. We interview successful investors from all over the world, and people reach out to us in DM. Hey, what do you know about this guy? Blah, blah. Or do you have someone this? I'm looking to buy this specific loan product. Do you have someone? And you're not expecting anything in return, right? We haven't sold one thing, really. Like,
we haven't.
It's like, here's 4 years of podcast for free, interviewing some of the brightest minds in the States on real estate investing. Just go listen for an hour. They're telling you how to be successful. And then we can connect people with those people. And it just, to your point, skyrockets you to the next level. I think Jamie Gruber, he's also the head of Emerge. He does a phenomenal job at this. And I think sometimes downplays himself, where he's like, I don't know why, but I just feel like my competitive advantage is connecting dots. And like, for some people, they don't think that is a competitive advantage or it's worthwhile. I'm like, Jamie, you go to him and he has any type of connection you possibly want. And that is also value it's similar to you, right? Like, you guys are both in tandem with, he has the podcast, he interviews people, connects them. And then people always go back to, oh, who's the guy that started that relationship for me? Like, I owe that guy. Like, I'll do that guy a favor anytime he needs it because he helped me scale my business. Now, I will say the connecting thing comes to a point where those people need to take action, right? Because sometimes if you make the connection, there's a lot of time people ask for help and then you're like, okay, do the X, Y, Z and report back to me. And they never report back. They never did anything. So it's interesting. There's a whole chess game in there. But to your point, I think people can truly, if you have a platform, if you have knowledge, like, put your story out there and connect people. And that relationship capital sometimes is worth way more than, dollar for dollar capital.
Exactly. No, 100%.
Absolutely.
100%. It's been, for me, it's one of those things too that later I have been able to help the GoBundance guys, but then I've also been able to help and connect people within the mastermind community too, like in being able to network, and then in me helping other people become, let's say, financially free or a millionaire themselves. They're also bringing me on for the ride because they're like, hey, because I'm like their mentor now. And so they're like, hey, Diego, I'm looking at this deal. Would you want to partner up, or can you help me raise money, or who do I need to know? And then I bring them those connections too. And that's how I was able to buy my 16 unit, for example. We brought in a couple of partners that they needed money. They had already the deal, the boots on the ground, and then that's how it happened, right? So using connections to be able to bring value to partnerships is really important too.
Love it. That's awesome. So as we wind down the show here, Diego, I'm curious, what is next for you? You mentioned last time, we interviewed a couple years ago, your net worth's $1 million. You're up to $4 million now. The sky's the limit. You're able to scale your agent business back. What do you want to accomplish? What's next for you in the next, 3 years or so?
Yeah. So for me is going to be, I want to reach my goal to $20,000 in passive income. That's what happens. That's what's next. I'm going to be looking at my portfolio and building towards that. I don't know yet. I'm still exploring the idea if I want to move to Puerto Rico, which I have to share the story on how I bought it. I will share that next. And I want to grow FI investors to be the community that continues to help people achieve financial independence. We just launched a podcast. We've helped a few people already become millionaires. Some people have retired their spouse and all that stuff, but that is what brings me joy. So I want to continue to do things that bring me joy, that bring me happiness. And then I've let go of some partnerships that didn't bring me joy or that we weren't aligned with our goals. And that is okay. We had one partnership too that they wanted to take the company, let's say as an example, right? Like $100 million valuation. And that is fine. And I know what that's going to take because it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of random Zoom calls, a lot of things to be on the go. But I don't want that in my life right now. So I told them, guys, I am not the best partner for where you guys are going. I need to step out, right? And that is fine. That is totally fine. Because a lot of people will feel like, oh my gosh, Diego, you said no to $100 million valuation. What will your net worth be? And this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not me. Like, that's not where I want to go. And it's more a personal thing. So for me, it's doing things that I enjoy doing and having that choice. But that comes with achieving a level of financial freedom where money is not an issue. Because at that point, you have the total freedom to say yes to things and to say no to things that might even bring you more money, but I'm not doing things for the money. But once you do that, when you begin to doing things not because of the money, you can reach so many more people and make more of an impact. That's my philosophy now.
Very cool.
That right there is just self-awareness. Self-awareness and a lack of you don't have any desperation. You don't need to do things for money, right? You are in a comfortable position in your life, and you're also self-aware. You know exactly what you want. So awesome.
Yeah, and it goes to lifestyles design, right? You were professionally designing your life in the beginning, but now it like kind of pivots to, and that's another one of the pillars of Go Abundance, right? And like bucket list adventures, lifestyle design, all that stuff. There's two questions. Actually, there's three things I want to touch on. You can take the order here. There's no rush. But I want to talk about the White House story because that's super cool. We did not dive into that. I also want to talk about your mastermind and the difference it is, or the difference you see between yours and Emerge that we're currently in, right? Because you know both communities. And then talk to us probably at the end, wrap us up with the Puerto Rico deal that you bought and how that ties into lifestyle design. That'll be the fun thing to end with.
Yeah. So the White House story, that's an incredible experience because when I got the email that the president was inviting me to the White House to watch the special. So there was a new movie that came out called Flaming Hot. That is a story of the janitor who worked at Lay's or whatever that main company was, but he created a Flaming Hot Cheeto. So they were showing that they were doing that screening at the White House lawn. And so I got the email, and first I thought that it was fake. Like I thought that it was spam. I'm like, President of the United States invites you to the White House to watch a movie, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, nah, this is fake. But I didn't delete it. Then I get a text from an organization that said, did you get an email from the White House? And I was like, yeah. Did you guys get hacked? Is it spam? And they're like, no, dude, it's the real thing. You are one of those people that got the invitation. And I was like, holy crap, can you make it? And I was like, yes, I will be there for sure. That was like, it was going to be like a week and a half later, like within 10 days. And I was going to be a keynote speaker in Philadelphia that same day. And I was like, crap, what can I do? Because I had agreed to this keynote like 3 months ago. And so I was able to arrange a couple of things. I told them, hey, I have to change the schedule. Instead of closing the event, let me open it up and I will inspire everybody to have an amazing day. I'm going to the White House. They were like, okay, for that reason, we will change the schedule. We'll talk to the other.
That's cool. And then you got to talk about to everyone you're talking to. I get a jet. I'm going to the White House. Like, come on. Right. That's awesome.
Exactly. But the White House story, it's really cool because it comes from the power that you get from sharing your story. This is something that that's what I tell a lot of people. Put yourself out there on social media. Put yourself out there doing your stories, sharing your reels, because you don't know how that is going to be compounding. I was literally having that conversation with a buddy this afternoon of like sharing your story because you don't know what opportunities are going to come up. When I shared my story for the first time in 2017, this was when the DACA program was trying. So at that point, the current administration was trying to take away the DACA program. And I shared my story publicly for the first time ever on social media, saying I am a DACA recipient. They're saying that they terminated the program because we're stealing jobs from Americans. And I'm like, that is not true. That podcast went viral, and it got me on Fox News Austin that week. Then Forbes, CNN Money. Then I got an invitation to go to meet with some congressmen in Washington, D.C. Okay? But here's where I'm sharing this part of the story, is because there was an organization called Forward.us that did videos showcasing dreamers and like immigrant stories. And in 2017, I would see those and I was like, man, one day I want to be one of those stories. When I go to Washington, D.C. for the first time in 2017, they call me and they say, hey, Diego, we saw your story. We want to create a video for you as you're coming here. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So they did that. I went there. I gave a press conference with some congressmen. Then in 2019, I go back, I get invited. And this time I'm there too, meeting congressmen. And then I get to be invited to be in the back where Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are doing, are giving a press conference. But in there, there's 3 dreamers that are sharing a story too about the DACA program, because they were trying to push the DREAM Act to happen. And I am there. I'm one of the 50 or 100 people. And I'm like, man, one day I want to be one of those dreamers sharing in there with Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, whatever, right? And this is not to be political or anything. It's just like what the experiences that I was invited to, right? Then last year in 2022, I get invited to go to the Senate again, like to meet with congressmen. And 2 days before going, they said, Diego, would you be able to give a speech? And I'm like, yes, I mean, tell me whatever you need me to do. I'm there. I'm here to support. They were flying out like 200 dreamers. And they say, all right, Diego, well, we've chosen you to be the one dreamer that gives a 3-minute speech with Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin and all these congressmen. And I was like, holy crap, it's happening. Like everything that I was like, one day I'll do that. I got that opportunity. And so then last November, I was there. I got invited. I had like cameras all over me with a microphone. My legs were freaking shaking. But with that speech, we did that speech on Tuesday at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. we started the speech. We finished it at 11 p.m. I went home. I went to the hotel. I practiced it, memorized it till 1 a.m., woke up at 6, practiced it, everything, and I was going live at 11 a.m. So I was like, holy crap. And so I memorized it. I did what I had to do. But that was awesome. And then, so I get the invitation to go to the White House. They invited 10 dreamers out of like 800,000. And then as I'm there, 2 days prior, I get a text saying, hey, Diego, we know you're coming to the White House. They've chosen you to see if you could if we could create some content with you at the White House, because they're going to be doing content. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, let's do it. And then while we're there at the White House, I found out that they chose me to be the front person too on all the stories that they were sharing. So I'm there, my face is there on the White House Instagram and everything. But it goes to show the power of sharing the story and being able to, just to get invited. And I got the opportunity to take one guest, and I chose my mom. And it was just like a freaking, like, it was an amazing opportunity because it's like 24, like we came here to the United States with $8,000. And then now we're at the freaking White House. And my mom, when Biden is walking by, she's like, Mr. President, can we take a selfie? He takes my mom's phone and takes a selfie with my mom and I and him. And it was just wild. And so it was just an incredible experience, and to be there with my mom too, and be chosen as one of the dreamers to get that opportunity was amazing.
Truly the definition of what a dreamer, I mean, it's what it's all about, right? Like you if that wasn't your I made it moment, then I don't know what is, So that's very, very, very cool. And I saw the White House Instagram. I saw you posted, and I was like, holy shit! Like, that's Diego. Like, he's there. So
That's amazing, dude. It brings me back to your original story a couple of years ago, and like not your original story, but us for the first time learning about you. And then I read Tribe of Millionaires, learned about you a little bit more in there. But it's so cool to see all of this happen in the last couple of years for you, and your life has. I don't want to say your life is complete, right? But like the story of the dreamer, like you have lived that to the fullest, and you got to have your pinnacle moment at the White House. It's amazing, dude. And but from putting your story out there, there's much more to your story, I will say, but this is a defining moment for you. And I know that you won't forget. And I can't even imagine being your mom and just knowing that her kid is this guy that did such an incredible job when you guys came over here. And like, just, I don't know, I'm almost at a loss for words at how friggin' cool the story is, dude. I don't even know how to go to the next segment because I don't know if it gets better than this, truly.
Well, it doesn't, right? That's the pinnacle of our episode. But I do want to talk about, just give us a minute on FI Investors, what you're doing with the community, and how you feel like you're bringing value to your members.
Yeah. So a lot of it, like the reason why I call it the FI Investors, and FI Investors stands for Financial Independent Investors, right? And it's because I wanted to. So the goal is to help people achieve financial independence through real estate, as a way of showing them how I have done it, but also how my mentors have done it within GoBundance. And all of it is about becoming that person that achieves financial freedom. If you don't become a millionaire or a person that achieves financial freedom first, like in your mind, in your heart, you're not going to achieve it, because you need to take those action steps, and you need to have that belief first that you can make it happen, right? So it's all about becoming that person that achieves that. And the reason why I call it FI Investors too is because I want to make sure to help people get to financial independence, but also what are the conversations that happen once you become financially free? Like, it's like you have the power of choice. And a lot of the stuff that I have shared here is those definitions of, hey, I do not need to make that much money in one way. I can create impact in other ways. And that's what I want to share. Those are the conversations that we want to get to as well. But it's all about helping people and giving them the accountability that they need and the resources to make it happen. Because if you don't have accountability for yourself, it's very easy to create excuses and not achieve them. So one of the things that I brought in is I interview one guy from GoBundance on their journey of becoming a millionaire. Similar to what they do in Emerge with the millionaire case study, I do something similar from the perspective of helping them understanding their journey to their first million, and asking them, okay, is that enough? How much more do you want? What do you want to achieve? What is your biggest struggle right now? And how has that changed from your biggest struggle when you were first getting started, right? I'm a little bit more philosophical when it gets to that and having those deep conversations, because those are the conversations that really make an impact on the person rather than just their bank account. Because the bank account, like I mentioned, once you know how to sell, you know how to sell. You can make money, but it's more of you becoming that person.
Very cool.
And that's what we do.
I have two more on this really quick. What's the structure of the program? And I'm trying to think of it because I know we're in a program as well. Like, do you meet a bunch of times weekly? How do you hold people accountable? And like, are you putting people in rooms with other people to put deals together, right? Like, it's surrounded by real estate. So people join these masterminds, not only to give, but also to, okay, how can I get myself to FI faster? How is it different than other, masterminds out there?
Yeah. So every Monday we have a call, and we have something called the boot camp too. So if you're just getting started, the first 12 weeks is going to be a different call where we help you get your first rental property. So giving you accountability and training on, okay, we connect you. We talk about different markets. We connect you with the investor-friendly realtor, the lender, all of that stuff, so that you can take action as quickly as possible and see results. Then the what we call like the elite program, that's at 8 o'clock. That's a call that I lead, and I'm either interviewing somebody for about an hour to an hour and a half, and talking on different subjects. It can be on Airbnb. It can be on business acquisition too. Actually, we had one yesterday on that. We've talked about and the millionaire case studies. And one of the calls a month is also on the breakout rooms. So we get everybody in groups of 4 or 5 people, and we let the groups be like, hey, what is challenging you right now? And how can we help? And where are you in your investment journey? So that allows people to also meet different people and create their network that way. Then we have a Slack channel community. So there's like, imagine there's 100 people and we have different channels. So people are creating, hey, I'm analyzing this deal. I need a property manager in this city. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And those conversations are really cool. Then once a month, we do a deal analysis call. So it's a Zoom call where people can bring their deals and they can be in the background listening to how we are analyzing deals or bring their own deals. Then we have a hands-on workshop once a month as well on different subjects. We've done a private pitch, private deal money, like how to raise private money. So we brought, for example, Matt Faircloth as a guest. Yep. And then we had a hands-on workshop on, guys, we're going to have 3 people share their pitch and see if we can raise money from the community.
Awesome. That people have connected to done deals. That's what it's all about. That's the value you bring there. So it's evident that your community is awesome. People are interested. They want to learn more about you or your community. They want to get involved. What's the best way for people to do that and get in touch?
Yeah. So they can reach out to me on Instagram at Real Diego Corzo, or they can go to thefiinvestors.com and they'll be able to check out all of that stuff. We also have a free email course for 6 days that is like freaking 25,000. It's 25 pages. 25 pages that we did in a Google Doc, and you get parts of that every day for a week, and giving you great content on that on the 6 keys to achieving financial independence. So, but at the end of the day, fiinvestors.com is the best way to reach out.
Very cool. Don't want to forget to do this. Tell us very quickly. I know we have a short on time here. I don't want to take all your day up, but tell us your story about Puerto Rico, buying your place, and put the cherry on top for the episode.
Yes. And here is where you guys heard in the beginning that I bought my first house hack, right? So that house hack, I bought it putting $10,000 down, right, including some closing costs, blah blah blah, and it cost $170,000. Fast forward, that was in 2014. Fast forward to 2022, that property went up to like 350. Just to let you know how crazy the market and net worth, at one point it was worth 450. Now it's worth 350, right? So to show you the big difference in the market change. But I have a line of credit in that property for $160,000. So I bought this condo in Puerto Rico with the line of credit from my first house hack. So the amount of money that I put down, it's a 2-bedroom condo. I bought it for $450. It's oceanfront view, freaking amazing. It was like, it's my dream condo, right? And I was able to do that by putting down 20% down. At first I was going to do 10%, but shit happens. And they said, Diego, it needs to be 20. And I was like, cool, I have the money in my line of credit to be able to do it. So imagine, of course, I have to pay that loan back, but I bought this condo with $0 out of my pocket. It was basically my line of credit that was able to get me this condo. And it just shows the power of playing the real estate game and letting momentum become your friend. And now I'm able to do different events here in Puerto Rico too. I'm doing one-on-one I'm doing like a 2-day one-on-one with Diego here in the condo. So we do business strategy and everything. We break down different businesses. And we also go on adventure here in Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico is one thing that I love. Number one, I think is because me being a DACA recipient and not being able to go back to Peru in 24 years, coming here and seeing the Latin culture, and I love salsa dancing. So it is like one of the things that I feel like at home. So that's why I think Puerto Rico is like one of the places that I was like, I want to put foots on the ground here from that perspective. But it just goes to show that the power of real estate and playing the money game, being able to do it and being okay with it appreciating, that compound rewards are so good.
Love it. Well, Diego, thanks so much for coming on the show. I think having you on 3 times, you're the most visited guest on our show. So thanks for coming on again. It was so great to catch up with you. We love chatting with you. And obviously, we're going to stay in touch, but we really appreciate your time today.
No, thank you. I'm really grateful because you guys always catch me in a different stage of life. So who knows, maybe we do one in 2 years and I'll be like maybe somewhere else completely different or whatever. But thank you for that opportunity. And yeah, can't wait to share it. And for everybody, I'm an open book. So reach out to me on Instagram, ask me questions, and we'll go from there.
Thanks again, Diego. It was a pleasure having you on, and we'll see you again soon.
Peace out.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.